Abusia mama makwa ba amra odi asampa TV musomfo odi asampa di twedi ampa bi kwan ne emi ani ahwe yan wi gidi se ho ye sa na me so ma kuma romant me ho odi abusia ye hwe openyi kase a oda hoyi ye ka leader mu leader ye ka Ken Muken oni Ibrahim Taroe na wadi nkomo bi na sa nkomo we ahumehia aya na me fi se ye mpanyinfo no Ibrahim Taroe di nkomo we ya se omu hu ana se ye boapayo se ye den yo His Excellency John Dramani Mahama enamu ena nani ena abrese otwe omo akwakoka ECOWAS ho ewa obra omo ankasa na omo wo ECOWAS community mu na ankasa no omo hu omo ahu ani so okoka na NDC full soldiers fo yaba na ye be kan ye pe edi akyeraw minu be di nkomo we na miwi a mama osa we me koka obi be ka kyerem se na ai enye na tumpo de ko omo ho no na nya wanwan odi obeti asama wasan akoja atum oni ametinabu se tinibu se tinabu mo mu ho ano mo badwe mo ho no obi ate ne ho na ogbo ne bra ekuo enye by force mi wokuo na se ekuo no hwe na ekuo ne moame mi nya mfaso mfiri so a tintin atwan mo se membra emehye kuo nim ode yenko Ibrahim Taroe nsam no so wo se eba ne se sa imperialism sa colonialism na amodi edidi adwen nyina na omo no mpese omo control ye bibia no si ebetumi ayam na ye ya ode yentie.
If you want to break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts from there. I think the example of Chad in any case is tangible. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we don't denounce the agreements, just saying that the bases leave, we haven't done anything. Because the problem lies in the colonial agreements, the defenses that have been signed since independence. The most dangerous is not the one you see in the bases. The most dangerous are the military advisors. Military advisors exist in all these countries. They existed in Burkina as well until the end of 2022, until we took responsibility.
Inti tesani omwo ye mu hanum Ghana ye ka ho bi Ibrahim Taroe sese we ni ebetumi a the only thing is say agreement omone ye akono ye betwam eye simple na nienti a ema ye military eye weak ni na no eye omo agreement omone ye ekono and ni na eye military advisors for no because most of them ni na no ye ko train omo ewa manfo cruise titiri France for inti ohwe soldiers for no Ibrahim Taroe kra wogina hoyi France for any co training no but because of the sense of humanity adwumanti ene ohu se daabi sansan funwe yentumi ensoso emani medru sa abrei inti ochirem ekire ode unim yese se bombochichi efuri nsu yase beka cha se denche mawu a yendi na chinie ono omana omutreni no inti oka bibia onim ne oka and aside ne oka ina so no owo ho evidence yentie ne sam ne wi a ye breaking it down.
And who are these military advisors? They are the ones who are supposed to implement France's policy here. They must work to make our armies very weak so that France can always have the argument to exist here. Under their influence, they had succeeded. Our sentinels were therefore standing guard with sticks. That's what France wants from our armies. When we reach this stage, we have no choice but to want them to come and settle. But the Burkinabe army managed to get rid of the military advisors. Unfortunately, I think that in 2019, after Operation Otapono, where the French saw that the Burkinabe army still had the capacity to respond to terrorists, they called the chiefs of staff in France. They instructed him to reintegrate the military advisors throughout the structure. Well, they did not agree. But upon returning to the country, the politicians instructed him to accept the military advisors. And that's when the
Inti abrana omone terrorism for air fighting na Burkina soldiers enya upper hand was Boko Haram free SE. Then a friend instructions free air France commanders and I say ayo manka some go from go France one of them say almost every structure army team no oman jantum no then ye then buy no the politicians you see nienti aya na da bia catch us say especially oman Ghana akoye bibia wo ho no ma corruption ni ade ekoso a obi antumi ka ho he ne say these politicians here na control the army any ade enyina then almost one kasa na control they are being controlled by foreign influence into no wo ya ade a ube wiki wo man na they are happy with it and unti na wo hweye mamu ha no ma anasa oba Africa leader bia na ube hu say this westerners no ebo na chi bia no eye leader bia oya ade pa ade ama man no na ne o dupu o man no ono no mo bo na ba so say oya ade nti ye hwe na nado time so na mamuo yete o man nim ya ho hyehyehye ya ho edwaye na Yesu no na America fo bo na nado ne Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia aba so say amamuo de eche say yehu ne seso da yete hanom amana ye nitria hospitals at TV3 ekotwa baaye oba ejina ho na ye je na wo ebi te ho ebi mo da fom na se camera hairs o sa wan hairs no aba be jina ka kire say Ghana are advanced to the extent say ye can say drone delivery sa inti ohwe abakwasema aba ye leaders are no mo bo mo ho modern na the same thing om dey osaje for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Thomas Sankara the same thing brother Muhammad Gaddafi the same thing leaders om bo mo ho modern no and om sorry eti ni na no om dey fight yan kasa yeso before so mo benya those leaders no mo dey fight yan kasa yeso and until na this time around ye ni abre say yan koso nka ho asem ma ye nuanum ihu say that time no na ebia na media no enye common by Ghana youth are so damp most of them no they are so damp to the extent they say niema nkasa ahuhia no on use ni data enko hwe nsemu hunu uko WhatsApp groups mu a wo WhatsApp group a yeah this basic the right information no the youth will never be there udia ubomodiana say ebia prono group bi no akwhyem sa wo share link the link papa to me be do atam ne you from ne abrock wo group nim but this is the information e was ye hu na ye de ebi hold the leaders ne accountable na almost omo ya de ese fata no ye de abo ma baso hwe nansen ECG containers are ayire afenyo marking in some okaye who say yes a free and all kasa say leader na nya politician who say some ne trendy there be but afenyo marking ko jina parliament na sabi o kanse munu nyema entire ye ne de na we twe saa ne ensem fata ene ye follow inti no Ibrahim Taroe no ka kire no politicians no then omu instructor said no I was omutie sa advice omu military na omu offer nim say sa advice no mo de mom embo no na for so omu say omu use sa advice no omu
military advisors returned to the Burkinabe army in 2019. With all the consequences we know, the army was on the verge of disappearing in the years 2020-2021. And indeed, this is the time when many soldiers had to desert because there was no longer any hope. We were in the process of collapsing. That's a bit how they work at the General Staff headquarters. In all army headquarters, in the schools, they are the ones who are supposed to dictate the policy of our army. They are the ones who tell us when to recruit, how to recruit, and what to do with them. They are in the schools to tell us how to train them, and so on. As long as these military advisors are there, you are not independent. Your army will just have the appearance of an army that is there to perform parades, a circus.
Nti we enana kwa mbedi ako ebeka ho asam ede kire no. Eba no se ya ye ti yemamu. Yen ni enim se ne ye ho sisi ehyehye ye fa. But omo ankasa ena we schools mu a ekire enkofo a awo se ye fa omo adwumam. There were so many men that they have the capacity to defend the nation. Nanso there be ni akasha obi ho no ma school eye nwoma na wo sunya. But eba ne say military defense a enya nwoma ene ye de ko defend ye kwa ako a enya adisua ene ye de kokko ye boy man ho ban a enye. Yes, you need 1 or 2 guidelines, but enya nwoma sua nti ye wonkofo bi wo ho no ma. They have the capacity, they have the muscle, they have the brain to defend their country. Nanso no ye behe politician bi ba we dey onimade into we na wose ye fa no we dey say we na wose ye fa no and the right people nankasa no ewo ho into we are preventing nkofo bebre na from the right opportunity na anka eyomo their destiny obi mo ho no their destiny to defend their country, but because these people are masters master who said there be ye phone kofo we mo ba we na beba nti ye mum ene ye be kire mo the kind of people yemfa nti ohwe olden times even ye paying for surgery for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah kra otumi yi ni ti obaboa yi omo na omu training ya, but because omo to me anka the sense of humanity anhye leaders be brain na omo na omu train omo, but omo to me anka sense of humanity anhye no ena omu to me ebeji nyamapa edema oman no den sabisabio ayarefo na ewo mu nso omo kokko training omo ede ensam ensam fata ede she omo adwim no omo ntumi undigest ena omo be say bibia ede emai eno anso ne ade ekoso eno nti na nana kwa mbedi akoba na ne message na ne say yemma ye homodin say ye be kire ye man ne ye nkola no niema atwa ye ho ahia ne ye njai sabre ne abrobia no ye kire omo foreign ye kan say affairs ne ade no. But when
war comes, you will realize that a parade is one thing, but war is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to break the agreements. It's the only way to have an independent army and build strength. But many people do not understand this, perhaps. And even with these agreements, France selects from our states officer cadets to go and train them. It's through these same agreements. But in reality, these officers who go to train, for the most part for France, they come to serve the French state in their country. They do not come to serve our countries. They train them so that they come to serve the interests of the French state. I can provide evidence of this. When we revolted, many officers in Burkina who were trained in France were immediately contacted to tell them that it was time to take action because you were trained for this, to serve France's interests. Most of these officers reported back to us. We took note and we continued to monitor. When an officer trained in France returns to his country and unfortunately dies, either by accident or on the battlefield. In France, there is a night of tribute to the fallen in the army, as there is everywhere else. During the night of tribute to the fallen, the name of the officer in question is mentioned, and it is said, died for France. They do not train him to serve his country. They train him to serve their state. And in many African states, there are plenty of such officers.
Nti abusha ano na Ibrahim Taroe ka kire ye no eba ne se parade ane ye military especially 6 March ni asa line ni etwa circle na edru war wa eho na obon se sa na there's different between yanya parade and circle etwa, and there's different between a war. Inti utie na samona then these people nankasa train those soldiers na they come to serve in their interest, and yes I can imagine say obuasi incident here esi say even youth no are offended say sen kra na eba ne say eni etu ehwie etuo esi edi gu sa nkofo we mu eso a wunim say eye wa wunua Ghana ni a wone ne wo oman ba akumu inti anka even arrest cry enough, but you go to the stand and say bulletin and by Ghana ye train abasa akwaku sisen nti Ibrahim Taroe so the same to catch say enya Burkina nko omukra de sisi ano omo ready of it now so no there's so many of them in all the African countries omo bu ewo mako bi e na omo ni ewo ho no abusha ye nhwe we His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Meka na enkofo ebomi eni abra His Excellency John Dramani Mahama eko ametinibu ehonom no obae ono ani Facebook page o say I returned this afternoon from a productive 1-day weekend visit to Abuja, Nigeria, where I engaged in insightful discussion with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I express my gratitude for his attendance at my inauguration as special guest of honor, a testimony to the strong bond between Ghana and Nigeria. We also discussed enhancing ECOWAS to achieve greater economic integration and cooperation and emphasize the necessity for increased collaboration to combat terrorism and violent extremism that threaten our peace. You see, metwaso terrorism ya mwaka mwasemi ma combatia yenya results. Burkina Faso Mali Niger te omo ho omo tusa nkofo we mu ase omo hihya hokra na omo ntube mba out sene na omo konka nkuru a omo je Burkina fa wie because me Burkina na me ko nti we anya news amate anasa article amakan na medeka meka as eyewitness ye wo ba bi hokra na ye kopre nu bi ho na ye se de be ye ne makra na ntumi nkobiem. But these young guys, without the help of ECOWAS and whatever, almost to me are ready off. Now, I am now His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Since you don't know what's on another tissue, the same thing. Tribal conflict at the Ghana ha ye into me and resolve ye. Inti oko omo eko kache omo say only supporting in fighting of terrorism, you know. I think say obu because these people yenim the Saharas no. The respect they have for elder leaders na anka yade ebia oye their age mate anka someone be ka kire no anka ebia be na sefem because yeti hanum just tribal war cry into me and resolve it inti ye be dey near to me I resolve it ye can say terrorism abusha yanko so or say I also had the opportunity to brief President Tinubu in his capacity as Chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State on my recent engagement with the leaders of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. I also had the opportunity to brief President Tinubu in his capacity as Chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State on my recent engagement with the leaders of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. These people, no, they are not ready to join ECOWAS. Because ECOWAS as it stand now, no, a useless organization, whether you like it or not, it is. Because on one kasa baby omo head way, the chair one year who can say chairperson who say chair one year say president ya who can as me otiwi. On one kasa ni country na kasa no terrorism no ebu afaso ewo honom. In today, and I will be to me they are convincing Ibrahim Taroe. Ana asimi gota ana say the wake say almost emra emeka honam fa so ben no mbenya frim e wa bra omote omohwe they are doing well sisi American Ibrahim Taroe asha asia mechanized farming o train the youth. And don't forget we are Ghana here. Ibrahim Taroe, me I don't hate them, I like them, and what they did is right, but who ni main cultural anajo me catch also omakra almost housing mechanics machine efa Ghana port omo twe na anajo nti union mo mu the northern part for no omo bedu onom na ade achi na omo di wram then na videos omo twetwa bi na omo ankasa no omo twa instead of some be create content about it e dia me hu se hwe mo hwe ne Burkina for eye no e na yen yete anom na concert na nsen ya ye vice president ekoto warning edema Donald Trump masa Ibrahim Taroe one of a woman baako send a message but the message enye just message a statement was sending edema omo enya no no mo di kan actions omo ye niema into who aid no so atwa they don't need it into anka yes vice president say you pay them back bibia ye dem omo eto masa internal also why you aid and yes you puri ye de ba ye de kasa any warning African countries be warning any kasa and omu true ewo hono abusi amasra hayo dey some party so you subscribe to channel na subscribe na share na like it if ata afro no make abusi ko nse be the video for tomorrow on sabeka bi no wahwe makrao
ano kwamo mienka na awodi nipa pina ekwa tete mu pao amani pampempema wale agu odia sampa spiritual and herbal center awo wo mo yade se wo mbe mu wanya basisi a yade bi tise stroke gonorrhea anabama wale mre e wampamu low sperm count wo mo wanu aduro tatahwe ene je sam se sabane sunsumu nsama wo mo tenete se ye sunsumu aware anasa yare bi ne yade amawo pampabone anabo ana wanya abai amane e court case wo betu charge osisi a enam omadwuma panti ni pampempem ene be fo bokofie ekoye sunsumu nyuma edemom samosini ene enzimani akabom dia sunsumu niema asie betu obi aje wukunu anasa woyere awaresem adwuma sam akwantuom nsam ni nyina aya sumasam fabadan odia sampa spiritual and herbal center obehuyan of
New Koforidua ejoso ne konongo infinfin aye Ashanti region ehon ma number aye didi juma no aye 054 330 4976 and I say 020 134 0421 054 330 4976 and I say 020 134 0421
Odia Sampa Spiritual and Herbal Center. You be do us some amount.